Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Co-Angler's Corner brought to you by Olson Home Theater. I'm Russell Olson. Unfortunately the show's been on a hiatus just a little bit here simply because of me having a pretty insane schedule here. We are back and we're planning on having the show hopefully on a monthly basis now. Get that back on track. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about today is time management. First thing I wanted to talk about was time management for when you're getting prepared. I'd say you want to set aside personally I do it pretty intensely during tournament week, but every so often prior to that tournament, I would set aside some time to to do your research on that lake, especially if you've never been there before. Make sure you keep an eye on what the weather's doing. Maybe search your favorite fishing report site to see if there's been any fishing reports. Anybody out there say anything about what they're using or what depth, especially what depth. That's actually very important. Of course, I think I may have did touch on this in a previous episode, but again, those sites you want to, kind of take as a grain of salt. But that's something you can use as a, as a guide or at least a start. And now, especially if you get a chance to go pre-fishing with your boater or friend or whatever the case may be, take time you want to go through, especially if you're on short time on the water when you're pre-fishing. I would personally go through just a lot of baits. If I'm not getting bites, switch them up. Just keep switching up. Maybe switch, maybe do a few different presentations. I'd be going through the baits very quickly, trying to narrow down which ones that they're gonna. But try to get maybe 1 or 2 bites on that bait. If you get a bite, obviously number one, know what size of fish you're catching, and then maybe use that bait for a little longer. See if you can get another bite to develop that pattern. I wouldn't use it very long. I usually don't. When I'm pre-fishing, I try to take notes. I actually have a brand new Samsung Galaxy Note Edge. I would use, if you have a tablet or a note phone, something that's easy for you to take some notes with. I would note as much as you can when you catch a fish. Conditions, water clarity, temperature, bait you're using, how you're presenting it, so on and so forth. That is important that you take that time to do that. And then, like I said, just try other baits throughout the day. See if you can develop 1 or 2, maybe 3 baits you've caught fish on, and definitely have that tied on, but also have some others tied on, ready to go that you believe would work during tournament day, because conditions can change, especially where I am in Wisconsin. Conditions can change just like that, or if you're on the river, they can change minute by minute. Be prepared for, try to be prepared for anything that could come your way, but obviously try to get a few baits that will, that you've caught fish on in certain conditions, and stick with that. On tournament day, obviously I don't think you'd want to go through the baits quite as fast, obviously, because you've got hopefully when you get to the ramp, you'll have had either a chance to pre-fish or gotten some good information where you've got at least 3 solid baits. Have some backups, in case, like I said, in case conditions change on you. Obviously, fish your strengths, especially during tournament day. But I mean, this is a very, you know, very individualized subject, and I say it because, like for example, some boaters I've had a few boaters that, you know, if they don't catch a fish in a spot within 10 minutes, they're running. I've had other boaters that have stayed in the spot for 4 or 5 hours, maybe more, and haven't caught anything. You know, obviously telling us we stayed there way too long, just beyond too long. Um, so you really got to find a happy medium. Now, obviously, you know, if you're not a boater, if you're a co-angler, you know, the main thing you've got control over is your bait control, where you're casting, and how you're presenting your bait. And depending, I know I'll just use some specific scenarios. I've had some times where I've thrown a bait, caught a fish, got to be 20, 30 minutes almost, and I'm about ready to put it down. That's, you know, I'd say it's probably a little too long. But, I mean, it's a tendency to use it when you catch a fish. You want to, you know, you have a tendency to try and see if that's a pattern. If you haven't caught a fish, you may, at that point, I'd say maybe 20 minutes. You might want to change, but when I'm switching baits, if I'm switched to another bait, I come back to the bait that I caught fish on for a while, and then try something else after that. The one thing I've had scenario though where I've had was using it for a while, and I'm about ready to put this down, then all of a sudden I catch another fish. So I mean, some days it's the fishing can be really slow, and you may, you know, like somebody have to get in front of their face to catch them, and you know that tells you, you know, if you're still catching fish and good fish, it could tell you you need to stay with the right thing, just be patient. Other times, like I said, 10, 15 minutes, especially if you don't have a chance to pre-fish. You just have either information that you've obtained online or obtained from your partner or whatever. You know, if it's not working, change it up. I mean, you gotta, you know, sometimes the conditions have totally changed or you haven't had a chance to pre-fish, and you got to get out there and figure out what's happening, and very fast. So, and unfortunately, the time management subject is there is a lot of room for interpretation. So that it's just really something, you know, I hate to say this, but that's something you're gonna have to figure out for you, and you know, just like anything else that's objective, it could be different for each person. So with that being said, that will lead us up to this episode's Spotlight Bait. Okay, everyone. This week's Spotlight Bait is a classic, but it's still actually very, very relevant today, and catches is a very big fish bait, the Jig N Pig. The Jig N Pig, basically what it is, it's a jig with usually a silicone type of skirt, or it can even be a hair jig, but it's more common. From my perspective, anyway, it's more common to use a silicone skirt of some type. And then you've got your hook that's attached to a lead head, and you got your brush, if you want to call it here. It's basically your weed guard. It keeps it out from getting hung up in stumps, and fairly, you know, efficiently stays weedless. Now it's if you're in really thick weeds, you know, you might still have a little bit of trouble. But start with a little bit of history on this bait, how they named it originally, because the trailers originally, when this bait first, you know, came to the forefront, it was basically a pork rind style bait is really, for the longest time, the only type of organic um, bait allowed in tournaments. Because tournaments do not allow for live bait, but it's basically really the, as far as I know, and I'm not sure, maybe Gulp's considered organic, I don't know, but um, for the longest time the pork rind trailer, it was the only organic bait that's allowed to be used in tournaments. Nowadays, it's more popular to use a plastic trailer or a plastic, plastic chunk. The Like I said, this bait's been around a long time. It's very versatile. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. I know many times. Now there's exceptions. I'll get into those a little bit later as we go into the different type of jigs. This bait for a long time was primarily used to imitate a crayfish. Now this is still a great imitator of a crayfish, and like I say, there's a lot of big fish that's caught on this. But one of the types of jigs that are available is what's called a swim jig. It's got a little bit more pointy head than this. That if you only if you could only get one jig, you couldn't get any other head shapes. I would get a swim jig because it's very versatile. You can swim it, you can hop it. It's very versatile. Now this head is a round head. It's not as it's not as preferable for swimming as the swim jig head, but I mean you could still use it for that purpose. There's also the football head that's good for making the baits stand up on head, because I've seen a lot of those football shaped heads have a flat spot like right here, so the bait looks like the claws are coming up like it's trying to defend itself. Some things I may have touched on this already, but the jigs, like I said, are very versatile. When I first started getting into bass fishing, when I used a jig, that's one of the things I did a lot. It was just simply cast it out, swim it back. Matter of fact, I didn't even have a trailer on mine. I just casted the jig out, swam it back, and I had some success on that. But then I got into using trailers and different types of trailers. If you're swimming it, a lot of times you use a twister tail of some sort. Like this is a crawl worm. Sometimes you use a chunk, which is just a chunk, almost kind of in a, I don't want to say triangular shape, but like half an octagon shape in front. It's looks like it's got two flippers on the back. I mean, you could even use a brush hog as a trailer and all of its, or some of the other creature baits, and use it as a trailer. It all has to do with conditions. Obviously, if you're trying to cover water, swimming the bait back is going to be obviously your best bet to cover water. If you're trying to work some heavy weeds, you're going to want a pretty heavy head, pretty heavy bait to punch through that water to get down below the weeds where the fish are. In other words, if you're just working structure, I mean, you can just hop it back. Or if you're trying to work a sand flat, for example, you can drag it back. There's so many ways that you can present this. You just gotta experiment and see what the fish want. As far as colors go, I stick with a lot of basic colors like your green pumpkins, your browns. One of the most popular colors, and a color I've had most of my success on with jigs, is actually black and blue. I don't know what it is. Obviously, when the conditions are a little cloudy, You can see how that would work. But even when it's sunny out, depending on the watercolor, I've had a lot of good luck on black and blue. Just like any other bait, you got to match your colors to the conditions that you're facing. Obviously, if your water's just stained, but it's got a green tint, I would go with a green pumpkin or watermelon. With the if it's a little darker tint, a little browner, I'd use more of a brown jig. Now another color some people like, I've had mixed emotions on, is black and red. I'm personally a fan of red, especially on shad imitating baits. I'd like to have it a little red, make it look like it's flaring its gills. But other than that, for swim baits, again, conditions can vary. But with swim baits, I do like either white or black and blue. Now, if I'm trying to imitate, say, like a bluegill, for example, you can use some fire tiger colors. Maybe even use an orange trailer. I have some in my tackle box in case the need arises. The nice thing about jigs, you can find them at a very reasonable price. If I remember right, you can get two, and they may have changed this. A company called something Jigs. You can get two of them, in a package. I think $5-6 if I remember right, which is actually pretty good for most jigs. And I hope what I've taught you today is going to help you be more successful with a jig and on the water altogether. That'll be it for today's episode. I hope what we've talked about today will help you be a better angler. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Frugal Muse Books. You mentioned Co-Angler's Corner at checkout, and you'll get a 10% discount. And also, too, if you'd like to make money while helping people change their lives and feed starving kids in America, feel free to email me at olsonhometheater@gmail.com, and I'll personally respond with information. Take care and wish you luck from the back of the boat this season.